The early 18th and 19th centuries in Europe saw the fall of autocratic multi-regional monarchies and the rise of the modern nation-state. It was a tumultuous transformation guided by three main ideologies: liberalism, conservatism, and nationalism. Let's take a quick look at what each of these ideologies represented at that time in Europe. The word liberalism is derived from the Latin word liber, which means free. Liberals usually belonged to the educated middle class. They campaigned for freedom and equality for all people. They believed that all people should have freedom of speech, thought, expression, religion, assembly, and association, among other things. Politically, liberals sought two things. One, government by consent or elected government. Two, the right to vote for all men, irrespective of class. Women's suffrage was a separate movement entirely. In economic terms, liberals sought the right to own property for all people. Remember, until now, property was controlled by the upper class of society. Liberalism stood for abolition of privileges by birth. The liberals also fought for free markets. They sought removal of state restrictions on the production and movement of goods within a unified territory. Thus, many liberals became liberal nationalists. That is, they began to seek the formation of a unified territory or nation in which liberal ideals could be implemented. Conservatives in general were people who did not want change. These people wanted to retain traditional beliefs and institutions such as monarchy, nobility, and church. Not surprisingly, most conservatives belonged to these institutions themselves. Conservatives sought to crush all opposition to autocratic monarchy. They enforced censorship on everything from newspapers to art. Books, songs, plays, and other forms of expressions were banned from reflecting ideas like liberty and equality. Conservatists wanted people to forget all that the French Revolution had inspired them to do. The idea of nationalism was an offshoot of the idea of liberty. In France, as well as in most regimes across Europe, the dream of a nation began as a revolt against autocratic monarchy. Revolutionaries rallied people around the concept of a united community with a shared cultural identity and equal rights under law. Nationalism evolved as the desire of people who spoke the same language, shared the same culture, and had the same ancestry to belong to one unified territory or nation. Romantic artists and poets of the time shaped and celebrated nationalism through the use of nationalist art, music, poetry, and dance. Language was another defining element of nationalism. In France, for example, regional dialects were discouraged in favor of a standard form of French as spoken in Paris. By the late 19th century, however, nationalism was no longer about identity and democracy. European nationalism now began to manifest as a quest for dominion over other regions. The quest for dominion in the Balkan region was particularly intense and eventually led to the First World War. Thus we see that nationalism meant different things to different people at different times. Yet, by the end of the 19th century, the idea that society must be divided into nations was universally accepted.